Since the 19th century, photography has been changing the way we see the world. The images of war captured in America's Civil War brought the battles home to both sides in ways not possible before. Martha Teichner takes us back.
Within hours of the fall of Fort Sumter on April 14, 1861, damage from the Confederate bombardment of it that started the Civil War had been photographed. This was something new, the first time Americans would see images of war as it really looked, the first time true likenesses of the people who lived and died in the conflict remained as a record, profoundly shaping our understanding of the bloodiest war in U.S. history.
When the Civil War began, photography was really in its infancy. It was just 20 years old.
Jeff Rosenheim heads the photography department at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and is curator of photography and the American Civil War. In New York City until September, then traveling to Charleston, South Carolina, and New Orleans.
These objects are rare survivors from a moment 150 years ago. They were kept in little pocket albums, little leather albums, both by regular soldiers and by officers. They were kept on the person.
Next to your heart.
Next to your heart.
This was found in the hands of a dead soldier after the Battle of Gettysburg. In these portraits, you see how young the soldiers were, often just boys, or how ferocious they tried to look. Photographs were already cheap, 50 to 75 cents with a fancy folding case. 5 to 10 cents, printed like glorified postcards.
This contraption is a posing stand that keeps the subject's head from moving.
Subjects had to sit or stand absolutely still for as long as 8 seconds then. Pictures were taken on glass plates and printed outside in the sun. There were field studios and tents with skylights. Very early on, photo supplies became almost impossible to get in the South, so photographers followed the Union armies and edged closer and closer to the battlefield. Photojournalism was born during the Civil War.
These are soldiers preparing for that first land fight, Bull Run, and there's an inscription on the back of the picture, and it says, "Half an hour before the start at 3 o'clock to Fairfax Courthouse, Virginia."
You could take pictures before the battle and after the battle, but not during the battle?
Not really, because the camera really couldn't capture that movement.
Alexander Gardner's camera captured the dead of Antietam after the bloodiest battle of our bloodiest war on September 17, 1862. In fact, our bloodiest day ever, with 23,000 dead and wounded. And then came Gettysburg the following summer, 150 years ago this past week. The beauty of the place belies the awfulness in Gardner's photographs, shocking to this day. You can still match locations. Then, with now, which adds to the intrigue of a famous photographic controversy.
This is called Home of a Rebel Sharpshooter, and this is a sharpshooter's last sleep.
It's the same sharpshooter in both pictures.
How did that happen? Some suggest that the photographer Gardner and his assistant O'Sullivan found it in the open field and moved it to this little nesty area. Other people believe that the body was found here and removed by a burial detail to this location.
Pictures of the wounded were equally gruesome. A Washington surgeon used them to teach medical students.
Well, these are emancipated slaves that were brought by the Union Army north in the middle of 1863 to have their photographs made. They're just these little 4-inch size pictures, and they were sold to raise money for the education of former slaves in Louisiana.
But abolitionists quickly figured out they were a powerful argument for the anti-slavery cause. Note how white some of the slave children look. And this.
On the forehead of the standing figure to the left, whose name is Wilson Chin, you see the initials VBM. Those are the initials of the plantation owner who branded his slaves with his own initials.
This photo, The Scourged Back, found its way into the film Lincoln.
When you're a slave, Mr. Slade, did they beat you?
I was born a free man. Nobody beat me except I beat them right back.
Abraham Lincoln understood the importance of photography even before the Civil War. This photo, taken in 1860 by Matthew Brady, America's most famous photographer at the time, was reproduced in many forms. It was widely believed to have gotten candidate Lincoln elected president. He was photographed often during his presidency. The change in him as the war took its toll, very plain. And when he was assassinated in April 1865, photography was part of the manhunt.
It's the first wanted poster in American history illustrated with photographs. Photography was everywhere. It had really saturated American society, and they just needed to actually go to the boarding house, to the family homes, to the friends of the likely conspirators to find pictures of them.
John Wilkes Booth was killed. 4 were hanged. Pictures taken at the gallows were printed and sold. People collected them, recognizing that the story they told was important.
I think that we are, as a nation, only as good as our memory. And the facts of these photographs, their tradition, gives us something that we cannot forget. What we really have is the beginning of an archive of who we are, or at least who we were. That is the treasury that we build our history from.